Well, it's changing fortunes over the next, currently and over the next 24 to 48 hours across the British Isles. Thanks for clicking on to the Wednesday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. While the first 9 days of October in some spots across the south didn't receive a single drop of rain or measurable rain, we have seen over the October average worth of rain across more northern areas of the UK here. Certainly here at the house at Marflin Weather HQ, there has been a total of 112 millimetres of rainfall within the first 10 days of the month. Now, to put that into context, the second wettest month of the entire year here at the house is July, and that was 112 millimetres of rain throughout the course of July. So, as it stands, through the first 10 days of October, this is now a tie for the second wettest month of the entire year, which is rather interesting. And I think we will certainly beat July in terms of rainfall, and we may very well beat September's 124 millimetres of rain for the wettest month of the year through the remainder, given the fact that we still have over half the month still to go with regards to rainfall here. So not a single drop of rain across southern parts of southern England and Wales over the first 9 days, 10 days of October. And for some spots, it is right up there with some of the wettest opening 10 days to October on record across more northern areas, with thanks to all that heavy rainfall back during the course of the weekend here. We've got this continuation of mild air trying to lift north, and we've also got some colder air coming in from the north here, down moving south here. So as cold air comes south, warm air comes north, of course you're going to get a natural boundary in between them. We've got heavy precipitation. Let's have a quick look actually at the current precipitation off the radar image for the moment here, and you can see here fairly high and dry, pretty gusty wind across the northern half of the UK during the course of today, thanks to that area of low pressure kind of moving up towards the Norwegian Sea. And we've got, of course, a frontal system here separating some still fairly warm, humid air with something a little bit fresher further north here. And you can see the band of heavy precipitation across South Wales through the Midlands into East Anglia, Lincolnshire, Cambridgeshire. Some fairly heavy persistent rain. If we play through the loop here, you can see the heavy precipitation that has fallen through the course of today here. And there is more wet weather to come throughout the course of this evening and into tomorrow. We will see that band moving out of the way, and you can see here right at the very bottom left hand corner of this chart, there's the next band of rain moving in from the southwest here. So as this moves northeasterly, it's going to deepen into a fairly substantial, rather compact area of low pressure. All the while we've got an area of low pressure to the north between Iceland and Scotland. Note the cold front here, that is separating some slightly not milder as such, but less cold air. We've got something a good deal colder than that behind the front. So this system here is doing one of two things. It's moving northeast, but it's also dragging in a little bit of warmer air. So we see this kind of slight decrease in temperature over the last 24 hours. We're going to then bump the temperature back up briefly, and then eventually as we move towards the weekend, we're going to see that cold front that's edging into the northwest during the overnight Thursday into Friday. There's that heavy precipitation sliding across England, Wales. We're going to see some fairly substantial rain totals, I think, through this. And of course, it's going to change the equation. And instead of having very little in the way of rain, we're going to then start to see those rain totals add up, I think. But you notice here these two areas of low pressure, one coming south, one coming north. We've got that clash zone in between that. And then eventually what happens is high pressure builds to the west over the Atlantic. These areas of low pressure then move east, and that is going to open the door to the first proper shot of autumn cold for the upcoming weekend here. So you can see here these are areas of low pressure moving east in a fairly uniform fashion. Some fairly heavy precipitation into late Friday, Saturday morning. So by this stage we will have seen a significant amount of rain. We might see some localized flooding, but notice what's taking place. We're starting to see that open door to something a little bit more wintry across the UK, and even some hill snow showing up on the chart here as well. These are total accumulated precipitation of the GFS chart here, right the way through to the early portion of the weekend, and you can see here the heaviest amounts of rainfall naturally across parts of the West Country and through Wales. You can see here rain totals in excess of 60 millimetres of rain, also 30 to 40 millimetres of rain across parts of northern Norfolk and to the west of London here as well. Wouldn't surprise me if a few spots gets between 75 and 100 millimetres of rain between now and the early portion of the upcoming weekend here. All the while, you can see here for 12 UTC on Saturday afternoon, fairly brisk north-northwesterly airflow, driving in some wintry precipitation as well. If we look at the snow prospect of the GFS here, you can see that the model is picking up a little bit of hill snow across parts of the high grounds of Scotland. You notice here that the GFS isn't overly enthusiastic. We'll have a look at the ECMWF in just a second here. Let's have a look back at the broader picture here and see the evolution of the 850 temperature profile as we go through the remainder of this week and through the upcoming weekend here. So these are the 850 temperatures at the moment here. As said already, we do have a little bit of a decrease in temperature across the south and a little bit of an uptick. Notice here that we've got cooler air coming across the northern half of the UK here. There's that area of low pressure. So we've got two areas of low pressure, once again dictating the movement of air mass. Of course, this kind of breeding ground for areas of low pressure riding. We've got this kind of two-branch jet stream structure at the moment here. One coming out of the northwest, driving these lows out of a cold source region, whereas we've got a southern branch that is driving warm, humid, tropical air or subtropical air northeastwards here. And of course, this is not an overly dissimilar setup to what delivered the heavy rainfall during the course of last weekend. This is a little bit of a, it's like a kind of Duracell battery version last weekend, of course, with the heavy persistent rain falling over that one given area for such a long period of time. It's a little bit of a kind of, almost a kind of cheaper, version of the weekend coming up with heavy precipitation, only it being further south across the UK here. So you can see this area of low pressure moving in, dragging that slightly warmer air up again, but nowhere near on par with what we've seen during last weekend, 25, 26 Celsius. We're only going to be talking about maybe upper teens to around 20 Celsius. Then, as you can see here, both areas of low pressure, the northern one moves east first, and then that secondary one skirts along that boundary, separate the two air masses. Could see some fairly heavy persistent rain Friday night into Saturday morning. There is Met Office yellow warnings for that rain. And then as these systems clear and high pressure is anchored to the west of the UK here, down comes that first shot of proper wintry cold air across the British Isles here. How far south the -5 Celsius isotherm at 850 millibars gets remains to be seen. You can see here it's down the eastern flank of the British Isles here overall. The golden question is, how much does this last? Now, one thing that is worth noting is there is a bit of an area of Scandinavian block developing during the course of next week. Now, this is off the GFS, of course, but notice here that that area of high pressure, if we skip just a few frames back, you notice that that high kind of moves from just west of the UK eastwards towards Scandinavia, and essentially it just turns the entire atmosphere almost over on itself. And you can see here what takes place. So that area of high pressure topples its way into Scandinavia, and then we'll have some very cold air over northwestern portions of Russia, Scandinavia, the Baltic region. And with that area of high pressure over Scandinavia, we're essentially starting to see a bit of an easterly flow coming in here. And that is a very, very interesting development seen by the models here. Let's have a look at the ECMWF now and see if that is buying into the same kind of outlook here. So of course the ECMWF doesn't, the operation anyway, doesn't go quite as far out as the GFS in terms of the time frame. But there's the two competing areas of low pressure with two very different air masses. The northern branch containing some fairly polar air. We've got the southern system here containing some subtropical air. In comes that clash, heavy rainfall in between, very similar to what was seen over the weekend, but nowhere near as potent. Then as them two areas of low pressure clear to the east, in comes that cold air, the -5 Celsius isotherm all the way down into the Midlands. It looks as if it kind of weakens slightly over the Midlands here. And then as we push towards the early and middle portion of next week, does the ECMWF see the same outcome? No, it doesn't. It's not quite the same synoptic situation here. We don't have the same type of dynamics in place. Long way out here, so we'll need to monitor this very carefully. What we do know is we've got a potent shot of something, slightly below what would be considered average for October, of course, and with how mild it's been, this will certainly be a shock to the system, folks. There's no question about that. But it isn't anything completely out of the ordinary for this time of the year, that's for sure. It's just been so incredibly mild, this will feel like a bigger deal than what it would have been probably back during the in October's gone by. So we'll play through the loop here. This is off the ECMWF. This is the UK version here, milder, clinging on to the south. And then as those areas of low pressure push on to the east, in comes that cold air. We've even got the, the -9 Celsius isotherm skirting across Orkney here. We've got the -7 Celsius isotherm across the north of the UK here. Some fairly cold air, that's for sure. And then as you can see here, it kind of gets washed out once again, and we get a southerly wind developing here. Looking at the snow prospects of the ECMWF, since we had a look at the GFS version here, and we'll play through the loop. We will look, by the way, in tomorrow's video at the prospects of what's going on with the Mann-Julian oscillation and how that may have burn on the late October and into November period here. It looks as if there is some relatively decent model agreement, by the way, of a negative NAO developing here and something a little bit colder in the medium range here. So something just to kind of hold on to here with regards to the medium range. So late October into the month of November, there is some modelling indicating some fairly strong negative NAO signal developing here. So, if you're a lover of winter weather, if you're looking for something a little bit more wintry compared to what we've had, stay tuned. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. There's plenty of more things to come in days, weeks, and months to come. Also, we'll be looking at winter before the end of this week. Here's the ECMWF snowfall projections, by the way, and we do have some hill snow to speak about. Nothing major, but certainly something in terms of winteriness anyway, that's for sure. Finally, let's have a look at the 2-meter temperature anomalies here. This is, or not anomalies, actually, projected air temperature of the GFS. This is for 12 UTC on Friday. You can see here that we've got 6s and 7s across the north, 10, 11, 12, even 13 Celsius possible across the southeast during the course of Friday. As we skip Friday into Saturday, we've got a good chance of seeing a frost. Remember, we've got a fairly biting northerly airflow to speak about, and temperatures, especially in rural areas, will get below freezing through the course of the weekend. These are the temperatures, by the way, at 12 and then 1800 UTC on Sunday afternoon. So only 3, 5, 6 Celsius across the north, barely reaching double figures across the south. And of course, we will have a bit of a wind chill. Let's have a look at the wind chill index here for through the course of the weekend. And you can see here some sub-freezing wind chills expected. 2-meter temperatures for the overnight period. Let's skip back. Now we could even see a bit of a frost developing in northern areas tonight as that area of low pressure exits to the east. Winds lighten up. We'll see clear skies, some shower activity across the far north, west, and through the Outer Hebrides here. But further inland, we may see a frost developing early tomorrow morning here. And then as we push towards the weekend here, we open that door and we will get temperatures down to -5, -6 possible in rural areas during the upcoming weekend.